morning, everybody. It's Janice, the Quiet Healer, and today I'm going to be having Elizabeth Lorentzen on. She's going to discuss what brings her peace, being in the garden, being in nature, and how she makes being a caregiver for her dad and being a training and development coordinator all work for her today. So please join me as we welcome Elizabeth. Good morning,
Hey,
Elizabeth.
good morning, Janice. How are you today?
I am good. How about
Good.
yourself?
Good, good. I mean, it's, a week before Christmas, so
And
like
off to
everybody
the
else.
house.
Chaos in the house.
Everything is stirring. So, so I want to thank you and welcome you to Unique Peace. And
Thank you.
we look forward to hearing all about how you bring peace to yourself and to others and keep it calm, especially during this holiday season. Because this is one of the most stressful times of the year. While it may be wonderful, it is stressful.
It is, it is. You try to be, it's a busy year everywhere. Everyone's always so busy with all their responsibilities, but somehow on Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, whatever holiday you celebrate, it's that much more pressure to kind of just you know, bring everybody together, which is a beautiful thing, and it's really happy. But as perfectionists, right, we put a little bit more extra stress on ourselves to try to make it even extra special. So it can really take its turn.
And so Michael is saying, Good morning.
Good morning.
So, and thank you for joining us, Michael. So, one of two things here. So, normally we can just dive in, or we can start off with a meditation and kind of get centered. So, what would you like to start off with?
I would love to start off with a meditation.
Okay,
It's already been busy, and I never get the chance to do it. So this being having a nice meditation would be a perfect way to start.
perfect. So, I would like everyone to get settled into a chair on the floor, kind of nice and comfortable here. However you want to do it, give yourself a couple minutes to get ready, or a couple seconds. And we're going to do the planting seeds meditation, which is all about preparing and planting our intentions and our goals and whatever we want to manifest. And we know, as we will discuss with Elizabeth shortly, that when you plant them, you got to give them time to grow. They need water, they need constant gardening. You need to weed out the things that don't fit. You need to make sure you've got sunlight. You're shedding light on what you want to manifest. You're watering them through whatever your deeds are. Whether, if you want to manifest money, you got to make with your financial planner, not just hard work. If you want to manifest more free time, you've got to clear your schedule. So it's manifesting and planting the seeds of your intentions and goals. And especially with the new year coming up, I don't like making resolutions anymore. I like to make intentions and goals. And so I don't know where everybody else is at, but that's how I switch on resolutions, because if you make a resolution, you don't usually stick to it. But if you set a goal, chances are you'll stick to that.
I like that. Yeah.
So everybody's in their chair or in their comfortable position. I want you to close your eyes. Take a big cleansing breath in and let it out. And now we're going to inhale slowly through our nose and bring it down into our belly. And we're going to exhale slowly and bring it in through the nose, down into the belly, and exhale. And one more cleansing breath in through the nose, down into the belly, and exhale. I want you to steady your breathing in slowly, exhale completely, and bring your rhythm steady in through the nose, out through the mouth and nose. And I want you to bring your attention to your hands, and I want you to notice how they're closed and they're holding on to something you can't see yet. I want you to slowly open your hands. And as you look at the contents in your hands, notice you're holding seeds. Take a moment to examine these seeds. Notice how many seeds you're holding. 1, 3, 5. Notice how big these seeds are. Are they tiny like mustard seeds, or are they large like beans? Just take a moment to look at them, and then look at your surroundings. Where are you? Are you outside? Are you inside? Just notice where you are for a moment, and notice that nearby is a watering can. I want you to pick up this watering can and walk to the nearest outdoor garden area. You are ready to plant your seeds. As you walk, observe your surroundings. Notice where you are. Are you in your yard? Are you in a garden? Maybe you're in a greenhouse. I want you to ask yourself, is this where I want to plant my seeds? If this is where you want to plant your seeds, stay here. If not, find another comfortable gardening space. And once you've come to this place where you want to plant your seeds, stop and take a moment to get situated into the most comfortable position to properly plant your seeds. This might be kneeling on the ground, sitting on the dirt, standing at a table with pots with soil. Just get comfortable to plant your seeds. Once you're comfortable, I want you to start preparing the ground, the dirt or soil where you're going to plant your seeds. Gently digging the holes, gently turning over the dirt so that the seeds have a nice place to grow. Not too deep, but not too shallow. And once you're ready, I want you to hold out your seeds again and plant them one by one in each of the holes and cover them. I want you to take a long look at what these seeds represent. What are your goals, your ambitions, your manifestation requests? And once you've planted each seed carefully in the ground and covered them up with dirt, slowly pick up your watering can and lightly water your seeds. You've given them the food to grow, and you're watering them every day. And you take a moment to appreciate this first step and remind yourself to water your seeds. Every day, with gratitude, with love, with light, every day. You take a deep breath in and you slowly exhale. And you get up and walk back to where you started, knowing tomorrow you're going to water your seeds again. You're going to help them grow. And you focus on their growth with love, light, and gratitude. And you take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, and you exhale it. And you take another deep breath in and slowly exhale. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes again to the room. And how are we feeling?
That was really nice, really relaxed. And I love the analogy because I can really, as a gardener, I love gardening. I could really relate to it, but on a sort of a surface level, just understanding, gardening, but realizing that our goals, require preparation, and our intentions require preparation. That analogy as well, that was really beautiful. And
Thank you.
thank you very much.
So when you garden, because I know that's one of the things that brings you peace and that you really enjoy, you know that like in February you start planting for your June, July crop.
Mhm.
So when you make that analogy, what do you feel would be most peaceful and right about bringing in that gardening aspect to bringing peace into your life?
Well, for me, gardening is, I mean, it's part of a cycle, right? And so, especially where we live, the ground is frozen, and and things seem dormant. They're not. I mean, they are to some extent, but they're going through that normal cycle of, birth, intense growth, intense life, intense, to to a time where everything has to rest, right? So that period of things starting to die back, but in a way, the roots are, everything's going back to the roots, and the roots are resting and relaxing, and it's that analogy of and how I try to sort of look at my life as well. It's like this is now a time for rest. Um, I love to garden, but there's also a period of time where in the fall where it's like, all right, I've worked. It's been a hectic gardening season because it does take. For me, it's my therapy, so it takes. I want to put lots of time into it, but there also comes a point where, okay, now it's time to rest. It's time for the trees to rest, and it's time for the plants to rest, and it's time for me to rest as well. And so when February rolls around and March rolls around, and I'm starting to plant my tomato seeds, in my little pots and my grow lights in my basement, it's it's um, it's really exciting because it's anticipation. It's for every seed I plant, I mean, this is the potential for tomatoes. So this is the potential for beautiful flowers. So this is the potential for a beautiful meal at some
Mm,
point down the line. And so it's hope, it's inspiration. It's also this miracle. Every time I look at a seed, it's such a miracle. I mean, this tiny seed contains really everything it needs to know exactly what to do, and yes, with love, with water, with warmth, with sun, it'll grow and mature, but it has everything it needs already there, all its intelligence already there. And I really try to take comfort in that because a tomato seed knows it's going to be a tomato. It
tomato.
doesn't worry it's going to be a cabbage. It knows, it knows. Well, what if I become a cabbage? Then what? But in my own life, I'll do that.
We
I'll
all
have a
do.
plan, and I'll say, well, what if this happens, or what if that happens, or what if, Elizabeth, if the tomato seed doesn't worry about whether or not it's going to be a tomato, just let it go. Just trust in nature, trust in that divine intelligence that can take a tiny seed and turn it into a beautiful tomato plant and lush with tomatoes. You're no different.
Imagine. Yeah.
Imagine you're no different. Just relax, let it go.
So, what is so peaceful you're planting your seeds, every stage. What makes every stage of gardening so peaceful for you? Do you get into a meditative state, or do you just find that like I'm doing something and whatever I'm doing is gonna help me or help others in the future? I mean, what do you feel is so peaceful about being in the garden and gardening?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything because when I'm connected to to earth, right? Connected to dirt and getting the and I'm a gardener, I don't wear gloves, because I want to feel the dirt. Obviously I don't my nails are not manicured and perfect because I don't care. I would much rather be able to feel get so I love to hike. I love to be out in nature in the woods and hiking. But as you know, I'm taking care of my 87 almost 87-year-old dad, and that's he has a lot of needs, and so I really can't get out to I can't go on a day hike like I used to be able to, and that's fine. But gardening then becomes even more important because that's something I could do outside in my backyard. I can take him with me in the backyard, and so connecting. So that's my best way of connecting with nature and the soil and the birds and the worms and the just the green leaves and the trees and the bushes and the shrubs. It's just connecting me with earth. And so there's this visceral connection to where I think we all come from, right? So that's part of it. But then there's also a peacefulness to it for me, um, just the repetitious motion of picking weeds or digging.
Gotta clear those weeds.
It's all part of it, and it's obviously the satisfaction of seeing a bed of weeds and then realizing, and then I guess getting back to your analogy about what it takes to you can't just plant the seeds and leave. And sometimes, depending upon what you're growing, that might be what you want to do. But if you want, a vegetable crop, or if you want to be able to see the flowers, you do have to pick out the weeds. And so that the physical, just repetitious motion for me is very meditative, but also that sense of accomplishment. And I gave that plant the space it needs to then so it can flourish. So it all just creates for me relaxation, and doing it, and I do it slowly. I'm not, because I want to be able to get the benefits, not just in a beautiful garden, but the benefits for me as well.
And that's very important because you have to take into account you're not just serving others, you have to take that restorative time for yourself. And that's where you find the peace in all the
Mhm.
chaos is being out there and being helpful to everybody else. So now I'm taking the time to pull the weeds.
Right, right. For my end, physically and symbolically too. It's, after an exhausting week, and even though it's so labor intensive, I feel more energized and relaxed than I would after a busy day at work, or because it's different. It's recharging me, where so much of what else that we're doing in life is draining you. Being a caretaker, working, cooking, regular, household and life jobs and responsibilities, it can be very draining. But this, even though it's physical labor, even though it's for some people work, but for me, it's very much recharging. And so that recharge gives me a sense of peace at the end of the day.
Nice, nice. So that was my next question is you feel peaceful, more at ease after you've gone out and worked in the garden, you've done the watering, you've done the weeding, you've taken that it's like it's self-care for you. It's unusual self-care, but it is self-care for you.
It's very much self-care. And like I said, for others, that would probably be horrible, horrible. They would be exhausted. They would want to do it. They would hire, whomever, somebody else to do it. They would concrete over. They would, plant grass. They wouldn't do it. But for me, and that's like the beautiful thing. Everyone finds their piece, their unique piece, right, in a unique way, and that's it for me. So I do find it very, and maybe because it's my, when I see my hands that are dirty, it makes me happy. Just I have fall raspberries, and so that, and I didn't know they were fall raspberries. They were new. I just planted them on, 1 or 2 years ago. So this is the first year that I actually got raspberries, and
Hey.
I didn't know there was such a thing as fall raspberries when I bought it. So I'm like, I didn't know they, was expecting raspberries in October, but I remember pulling them, having a handful of, and I remember looking down at my hands and they were dirty, and I just plopped, these raspberries, and I was sitting on top of it, and there's part of me that's like, you probably should wash them and wash your hands, and I just popped them in my mouth. And they were so good, and they were warm from the sun, and
Mm.
it brings me to my happy place. And so, yes, dirt and all, it brings, even just talking about it excites me. It's the middle of December and everything is frozen over outside, but just thinking about those memories of, summer gardening, fall gardening, trying to get some time to sit and enjoy it. I don't do that as much, because usually if I am sitting, and with a cup of tea or something and enjoying it, I'll see a weed or I'll see something, and I'm always compelled to just, let me just grab that, let me put that down, let me just do this before I forget it.
It's like,
Again, it brings me happiness. Even just talking about it, I'm getting all excited. But that brings me peace as well.
and that's in a chaotic world, that's what we need to do.
Very
And
much so, very much so. And I think for everybody, certainly in these last 2 years, I think especially, in 2020, but I think so many people found it. You can go anywhere. And so gardening, and I've been doing it my whole life, and it's been in my blood. My grandfather was a farmer and had garden centers and greenhouses. So I grew up doing it, and I think that probably helps. But if you didn't have that exposure as a young child, then maybe gardening isn't for you. But especially now in such a chaotic world, and live, it's that in that sanctuary. My backyard has become like really truly a sanctuary of a place. And
it's also simplicity. My great grandparents, both my biological parents' side, were farmers in Minnesota. So it's like I'm not foreign to it. We had our own victory garden growing up.
Mhm,
As
mhm.
I said, my grandparents had their victory garden. So, and I didn't know what that term meant until, you go to a history class and like,
Yeah.
oh, that's why it's called that.
Sure.
But it's the simplicity. It's that it seems like a lot of hard work for some people, but it's the simplicity. It's like now I don't have to go to the grocery store for my tomatoes. I can go in
Yes.
the backyard.
Yes.
It was very funny because when we would go visit my grandparents, I wasn't allowed to pick the tomatoes, and my mom wasn't allowed to pick the green beans because of what's the favorite there. So we would
Yep.
get the opposite job.
Why? Why was that? Why did they?
Because
You
if
eat
my
them?
mom picked tomatoes and she doesn't like tomatoes, she's
You
not
would
going
be.
to eat them. And if I don't want the green beans, I'm not going to eat them. So it was easier to give us the opposite job.
This way you knew there'd be something left afterwards.
Yeah, my grandmother was more concerned. It's like, why don't I have any cherry tomatoes? Oh, I don't know. I don't know
That's
what
so
happened to them. I
true.
went and picked them in the garden.
That's so true. There's so many things that never make it inside. Um, Peas in the springtime are things that I rarely, I'll usually just pick them and eat them right from the
Yeah.
garden. But yeah, but it's empowering. Yes, it's the simplicity of it, but to me, it's so empowering. I mean, to be able to not have to rely on, particularly with the prices these days, right? Now, I don't buy tomatoes, because they're only really going to be delicious in the summer. And and I'm not tooting my own horn that, oh, I grow the best tomatoes. I don't. I grow tomatoes, but I think when you pick them ripe with the
Mm-hmm.
warmth from the sun, I could see why. Yeah, it's like one for the bucket, one for you, one for the bucket, one for you. But it's so they are going to be more delicious because they are not traveling. To me, it's you can't get any closer than garden to farm to table. Right? It can't be any. you can't get it any more local than your backyard if you're blessed to have it, or a flower pot, a pot, even if you're not blessed to have it. But that that empowerment of, I don't, you know, granted, I can't grow everything that I eat, but whatever I can grow, if it's going to reduce my reliance on having to go to the grocery store, and it's going to be probably healthier because I know, where it's coming from, and I don't grow organically, so I know there isn't going to be pesticides on it. Knowing that that's going to be, what's for dinner tonight, I'm going to go outside in the garden and find out.
Let's go find out.
Yep, see what's ripe, see what's ready to pick.
And you're also helping the planet because you're creating oxygen, reducing the carbon footprint. You're doing a lot of things. You are being of service to others, even if it's just yourself and your dad and your neighbors. And you are being service to the planet because you're increasing the oxygen, you're helping through the cycles, and you're you're just helping. And what you're doing is of service.
Right, and I think the more you get in tune with nature and allowing you to do that, it does build that sense of responsibility. I mean, just, I've this year I've kind of made a lot of changes in my garden, and one of the big changes is I want more plants and flowers that attract bees and butterflies, and so I've got a whole border of coneflowers, and I grow. They're practically weeds here. The coneflowers, they just repopulate like crazy. So, but I've been moving them strategically, so I can have whole sections that are just for that are going to attract the birds and the butterflies and the bees. And I'm going to have a section that I'm going to turn to a wildflower garden, and because it gives you, the more I think you're in nature, yes, for me, it gives me peace, but it also gives me a sense of responsibility, knowing how important it is. And I can't save the planet. I'm one person. I'm just me. I'm not a politician or a millionaire that can donate and save. But the part of what I can control, I am responsible for, it gives you greater sense of responsibility for keeping it. We share this planet with so many different species, and it gives you that sense of responsibility that you need to heal it, heal whatever. We can't heal it everywhere, but we can heal the areas that we can heal. We really need to do that, to just so that it can continue to grow and heal and be there for future generations.
Absolutely agree. So, how do you feel you bring peace to others?
I don't know if I do.
Mhm.
I think as long I think well, I think when I feel peace, I am more patient, and I am more forgiving, and I am more accepting, and hopefully that then then people can then feel that, and experience it, and they too can become calm just in the presence. you know um, Chaos breeds chaos, so on the flip side, hopefully peace just breeds peace. Just being in that peaceful state then affects how I interact with other
Excuse me.
people, which will hopefully bring them peace and make them feel calm and make them feel at ease, hopefully. But yes, it does start with yourself. You can't be in a state of anxiety and a state of stress and expect you're going to calm anybody down. And so it does have to start with yourself.
Yeah. So when you're stressed out, say you have a big presentation or training, or you just had some struggles in any capacity, what do you do to bring yourself down so that you can calm the situation down? Like it might just be a normal situation, but in your own mind, it feels like chaos. And we've all been there. We've
Mhm.
all made mountains out of anthills. and I am just as guilty.
Oh,
So how would you
shoot.
do that? How would you find that peace to bring into yourself so that externally you make everything else feel normal and content?
Yeah, it's a great question. And as you were asking it, a good friend of mine years ago gave me this great analogy. And he said, imagine the ocean. You know how the ocean is during a storm, right? It's waves and crashing. Waves are crashing, and at the surface of the ocean, there's chaos and there's threats and there's danger but travel and I know I'm not a diver, but I can only imagine travel below that surface, well below that surface, 100 feet, 200 feet, maybe more. I don't even know depth
I'm
wise
not a
how many
diver
that
either,
would
so
be.
I don't
I don't
know.
know if that's far enough. But no matter what's going on out there, at that level, at that depth of the ocean, it's completely calm and it's completely at peace. And you don't sense, you don't know that there's chaos and hurricane winds and tornadoes above, right? Or cyclones. You just, when you travel below the surface, there's that calm. And what you need to do, and I remember telling me this, what you need to do is you just need to bring yourself there. You need to bring yourself down there because what's going on external, right? The pressure about giving a presentation or having meetings, or who's yelling at you because something is beyond deadline. That's the surface. And so just take a moment, you sit at your desk, go to the bathroom if you have no choice, find some moment and then just close your eyes and physically put yourself below that ocean. And again, I'm not a diver. I don't even like the water, but I'm able to do that. And if I'm able to find that peace, and that's kind of how I do it. I just physically just take myself and bring it down to what it must be like down there. And it's things are moving more slowly because it's moving with the rhythms of a much gentler, current. And of course, the diver is listening to this and saying that's completely bollocks, and you don't know what you're talking about. But but I believe that's how I do it. And it's like no matter what's going on out there, you've got that peace inside. It's not. Don't let it inside of you. I remember a great quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. Um, Not, all the water in the world can't drown you unless you let it take
And
it get inside of you, right? And so all of that chaos that's going outside of you, that's going on outside of you, it won't bother you. You can stay at peace if you don't let it get inside of you. And it's hard to do that. So what I like to do is just close my eyes and just physically take myself to like the bottom of an ocean or low enough to where I don't can sense it anymore. And that quietness that I sense there, and again, not a diver, don't know have at all what it's really like, but in my imagination, that brings me peace. And I usually do that a lot when I'm as the introvert who does learning and development and is standing in front of 10, 20, 30, 40 people. It can get once I'm right before that point, I can get pretty anxious, but I take myself to that place of peace, and then you realize, okay, you know nothing can hurt me, not because as long as I don't let it get inside of me.
that's awesome. And I love that analogy. Michael does too. He said that's a great
Ah,
analogy. And so if someone were to come to you during the day or just, you're at a family function because those can be stressful or a company holiday party, that could be, why are you so calm? How do you get so calm? What would you tell them? What advice would you give?
um, Well, I would first off say I don't. I'm not always I mean, I'm not a special, guru and living on the top of a mountain. I'm human, and I'm usually not. Well, I usually can't. I'm struggle just like everybody else does, and so it's, you know, it's it's just, I guess, and certainly, I certainly have come a long way in life, because I think my 20, 30-year-old self, if, a year ago self, would probably see me now, as as a much calmer person. So I think it's just focusing on what's important, and realizing that I usually do I'm better for myself and for others when I am in as calm a state as possible. I am of no help to myself or others when I'm uptight and anxious. And so, um, but helping them know that, look, I'm not a monk, and or someone else that you picture as being always in a state of calm, and maybe they're not either all the time. And so, if they were to ask me, what do I do? Is just focus on what's really important, and everything else is, and what's really important, family, especially this time of year, being together with those who are still here, you know, um, doing that for them, because so, we've all lost loved ones, and so recognizing that with whatever time we all have left, we need to make sure that we are here for each other, and and we can only really be here for each other if we put ourselves in a calm spot. We put ourselves in a peaceful spot, because it's too easy to turn on the news and get uptight and anxious. And then, so I hardly watch the news. I grab 2 minutes of it, usually just to grab the weather and whatever I have to know, just to be part of, the human race. But the details and the analysis, that's when I close it and say, okay, I just need to focus on what's important. So making sure, and then realizing that so much isn't, I don't do social media, because I'd rather spend the time being with my dad, and being with my family, and knowing that my dad's needs, making sure he's safe and healthy, and being there for him, knowing that, I've got to be in a good state, because, you know, then I'm no use to anybody, especially myself and my father. So,
So if a coworker come to you and they're very, high anxiety, how would you advise them to like calm down in that moment? Just saying that focus on what's important is key, but we all have had those coworkers or have been in those situations where it's high anxiety. They can't see the forest through the trees. They can't even see their feet on the ground.
mhm.
What is important there to them is like, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. I got to get this done. But that's not necessarily what's important. So how do you talk someone down from, um, or bring them up from that, high anxiety, that, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God state?
Yeah, yeah. So I start off by being in as calm a state as possible. When someone's coming to me, you don't get excited with them, because that's only going to bring them up. You need to, and it's a mental challenge, but you need to calm yourself down, and you need to talk slowly, and you need to take it in, because when you start talking slowly, it's going to physiologically start to slow them down, calm them down. But then ask them, one of my favorite things to ask is this going to be an issue a month from now? Is this going to be the end of the world a month from now? Is it going to still be a problem a month from now? And if the answer is no, then it's like, well, then it probably shouldn't really be considered a problem now. Like, I get it, but let's face it, if it's just in the moment, then put it into perspective. It's going to pass. It's going to be fine. And then really helping them. So often when we're under stress, especially work stress, we aren't thinking clearly. And so sometimes the solution is right there, or sometimes what is bothersome, is really just some silly thing, right? That isn't going to be a big deal a month from now. So helping them say, okay, what's really important? Let's focus on what's important, right? So everything else, right? Let's just put it on the back burner for now. And let's just focus on the one thing that you need to do right now. And that sometimes helps people sort of get in a state of calm, right? It's just because usually when we're upset, either we're worried about we've done something and we're worried about the repercussions of it, right? Or there's a deadline and the phone is ringing and all of these things are going, as long as, everything isn't probably on fire all at once. It's probably just one fire at a time. Let's just, and let's not even call it a fire, right? Let's just call it, this is the thing we have to do, right? So everything else, just put it aside and just focus on this one thing or whatever it is. So just trying to help put it to perspective. And it's easy to it is easier to say it to somebody because you're not the one in the middle of it. So it's
Right.
easier to help them, um, because chances are you're not also part of that. But even if you were, it's something you still want to try to do, because then once you realize, okay, it's just that one thing, and help, maybe help brainstorm solutions or whatever it is. Just again, trying to help focus on, is this really on fire? Is this really it? Let's look at it again, and then okay, what's the one thing we need to do to get you to that point of peace or help or whatever it is, and then usually, once they get to that point, then you can focus, right? Because when we're so anxious, we can't focus on what needs to be done, and so it's like everything kind of explodes. But when you just say, okay, it's just this one thing, and I do that even for myself, and I feel like there's just so many things to do. And I start to get anxious. I make a list, right? I make a list of all the things so I don't worry about it. You're not going to forget it because it's on a piece of paper. And then I'm like, all right, pick one thing, and then you immediately say, oh, okay, I'm not going to forget all the others, and I'm
Bite-sized
bite
pieces.
size, just make bite-sized pieces. I can do bite-sized pieces, and then once you start to calm down and once you start to see that success, then it just becomes a good motivator to just kind of keep moving and continue to work forward and get through it.
So going back to the cycles and the cycles of life and the cycles of, okay, we prepare, we grow, we harvest, we rest. What you just said about being in the chaos, even for yourself, and then taking it down into bite-sized pieces, do you think that's kind of a cycle of chaos? Like you get yourself in a tizzy, you're in the middle of a tizzy, and you have to try and get out of a tizzy, and then you find that way out. Or am I off base?
No, I don't think you are at all. As a matter of, there is and of course, I'm not going to be able to remember it exactly, but there is a change cycle. Like when people are going through change, and some things I've covered in change management trainings that I've done, it's a cycle of very similar to like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's Stages of Death and Dying, right? So you've got
Right.
that, you've got that, sort of that high anxiety. This is, why is this happening? This isn't me, this isn't happening. Why is this happening? And then you can create that, and it's called, they call it chaos, right? That area of doom, if you will, that where you're at that lowest point, and hopefully you can get out of it. Depending upon how that because that's kind of a very dangerous area, because you are in that spot where you're at that worst. Um, and then you kind of break free of it, and then you can kind of get that strength and heal, and then be in that calm state. So yes, it's definitely a cycle as well. It's a good, I hadn't thought of it, but yes, sort of you kind of build it up, it comes crashing down, but then, you know and I guess that's also comforting to know when you're in it, that okay, I might be in the thick of it. I may be in the really the intense bad part of it, but I will get out of it. It will get better. I don't see it. I don't know how it's going to happen right now, but I know it will. Past experience has proven to me it will again. even though this is different, and even though this seems different, and even though it seems like it's the end of the world, it's not, and we can move forward and try to find strength in that as well.
And speaking of cycles and where we are in the cycle of the year and where we are in the cycle of the holidays and the wonderful meditation that we did earlier, what are some of your goals and intentions for 2023?
Oh my goodness. Um, just with everything I think we've all been through, right? Just trying to stay, as a planet, just trying to connect more with nature, knowing that I I'm at a point in my life, and I recognize this as an opportunity for me. I've always had goals, and I always will have goals, but I also recognize sometimes you just have to go with the flow. And I'm at that point where, taking care of my dad, I'm at, I this is sort of universe's way of saying you just have to go with the flow right now, just keep following the path. But that's what I need to be doing. And so I don't make other lofty goals of, starting a business, moving to somewhere else, because I'm just like, okay, no, that's not, and
Not
more
where you want.
that's not part of my horizon. So my horizon is, obviously staying strong and being always continuing to be there for my dad, but then also, just becoming more in tune with nature. Again, getting back in the garden. I already have my seeds for. I've already bought the seeds for 2023. So I already I'm um, got that. So super excited and got that all set. But but trying to get more into not just because I feel like the more in tune we are with nature, the more the universe will continue to guide us of where we need to go. But I don't think I'll be able to hear those messages or be in tune with those messages if I'm frazzled or if I'm. So my goals for 2023 include things like gardening more, um, um, meditation, that beautiful meditation that we did, just doing that all every day, or trying to find that more a little bit more time to be able to do that, because I think the more in tune that I can become with nature and the universe, the more I can be able to hear those little voices that guide you, and so it kind of put me in touch with whatever path that comes next in life.
Wonderful. I'm excited for you, and I'm hopeful that that is what you were able to attain in
Thank
2023
you.
and beyond. And I would like to thank you, Beth. Thank you so much for being with us today. And
Thank you, Janice. It's always great to chat with you.
and you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. You too. Bye bye.